Hello and welcome to Word Processing 101. I know that all of you know how to use word processors and probably know your way around Microsoft Word reasonably well. So what I'd like to do is to focus this session on tips and tricks for features that you may not really be aware of that are in Microsoft Word. Word actually has quite a few things that it can do for you that are either undocumented or sometimes poorly documented and really hard to know about. So what I really want to do is to focus this on features of Microsoft Word that can make your lives easier so that the next time you sit down to write a paper, it'll be a much faster process and it'll be a better looking result. So I do encourage you to step through this. Now the approach I'm going to take here is somewhat interactive. If you go into the Canvas course, you'll see that there is a document for lab exercise there. We're going to copy and paste that into a brand new Word document and use that for the basis of our exercise. There's also a PowerPoint file here where it says PowerPoint file in class exercise, and the slides in that PowerPoint will effectively give you many of the just document many of the tips that I'm giving you here. So if you forget about how I suggest doing something, you can refer back to that PowerPoint and it'll have the majority of these procedures in there. So you can use that as a reference guide. So to begin, we're going to go ahead and open this document for lab exercise. And the idea here is to simply copy and paste this. We have a little article here that you'll see is in the document. Just right click, copy it. I'm going to jump over into Microsoft Word, create a new blank document in Word, and right click and paste to document. Now if you get a little extra stuff there, you can just highlight that and delete it. And we don't actually even need the citation at the end. That can be deleted as well. So here we have it. If you completed that step properly, you should have the document looking pretty much like mine on my screen. Now, one tip as we go along through this, if I go a little faster than you're able to do, I recommend maybe starting and stopping the video. So as I complete a step, go ahead and give it a try on your own. And what I would do is maybe watch ahead in the video so you can see where I'm going to go with some of these techniques, and then go back and give it a try yourself. So again, just step through each one of the steps on your own and duplicate it on your own. And again, the PowerPoint file will document some of these tips for you. So if you need to replay the video, you can always go backward and repeat a section of it if you think you missed something. Now I'm going to start with something incredibly simple, or sounds incredibly simple, but there are actually quite a few shortcuts to, and that is selecting text within a document. Now normally we're used to selecting text kind of using this method where we find our starting point in the text, click, hold the button down, and then we just start dragging around until we get to the end of whatever area it is that we want to select. Believe it or not, there are actually a number of shortcuts to this. So let's go through each of the shortcuts individually. The first shortcut is selecting a line of text. So let's say I want to just select this title. I can click and highlight my way through it the old-fashioned way, which means I might undershoot or overshoot my target. Or I can use the shortcut, which is this. Take the cursor, put it in the left margin alongside the line of text you wish to highlight. You'll see that it changes into a little right-leaning arrow. When you see the right-leaning arrow, give it one mouse click, and that will select that line of text. Now, if you want to select multiple lines of text, click, hold the button down, and just drag up or down. And now we can select multiple lines of text. The main advantage here is that we're unlikely to undershoot or overshoot the selection that we want. Okay, now let's say we want to select a single word. Just put the cursor directly over that word and double click on it. So I'm going to select the word disease, put the cursor over it, double click. Only the word disease has now been selected. Let's say I want to select multiple words. Maybe I want to take 5 or 6 words and bold them all. Rather than doing them one at a time, I can select the first word using my fancy new method here where I put the cursor over it and double click. Now hold the control key down and simply double click on the additional words. The whole time keep the control key held down. And as I do this, we can see that I can now select a bunch of words. Now if I wanted to bold them, I could just do it with one mouse click. Okay, a little bit quicker of doing each one at a time individually. Okay, so that's a single word selection. Next, we have a paragraph selection. To do this one, I'm going to scroll down a little bit into the document. And let's assume I want to select this paragraph beginning with the word however. I'm going to put my cursor in the margin to the left of it. And this time, instead of doing a single click to select a line of text, I'm going to double click. The double click will select the entire paragraph. Okay, one more time to select a paragraph, put the cursor in the left margin and double click. Now, while we're on that technique, if we want to select the entire document, here's a nifty shortcut. Put the cursor in the left margin and triple click. So this time we give it 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3. And on the third click, it will select the entire document. Okay, here's another one for you. Selecting a sentence. If I want to select only a specific sentence, for example, this one, okay, I can, again, click and highlight, or I can use my shortcut. The shortcut is this. Hold down the control key, and with the control key held down, just click within the sentence anywhere, and it will select only the sentence right up to the period. I'll do this again on the very last sentence. I'll hold down my control key, give it 1 click, and it's actually not the very last sentence. It's the second to the last sentence, but you get the idea here. So 1 click with the control key down gives us a specific sentence. Now, I'm going to create a little document here at the end, a little page, new page here, and no need to duplicate this one unless you really, really want to. So I'm going to create a couple of columns of text. Only these aren't really columns. These are just lines where we have things separated by tab characters. Now, if I wanted to take these words here, first, second, third, fourth, and let's assume this goes on for pages and pages, and I wanted to maybe bold them or change the color of them, I can't really select them directly all in a mass, because as soon as I do, I'm going to get the stuff alongside, because again, this isn't a table. These are just lines of text with tabs in them. So if I wanted to bold them, I would have to do one at a time. Click and then bold, and then click and then bold, and so forth. Now, there is actually an approach for dealing with this situation, and it is called a vertical selection. To do a vertical selection, we hold down the Alt key. With the Alt key held down, you can click and select text both vertically and horizontally at the same time. Now that I have them selected, I can click bold 1 time, and now I've got my text bolded. So it is, again, if you assume this to be a much longer table that goes on for several pages, this is a whole lot faster than doing each word one at a time. Okay, so that is a vertical selection, and again, we do it by holding down the Alt key and then selecting our text. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this because we don't really need to use it again. But those are my best hints, tips and tricks for selection methods, and again, they're all summarized in the PowerPoint presentation. Now, I'm going to very quickly go through some really basic techniques just to make sure that everybody's on the same page here in terms of the terminology. I think everybody knows about copying and pasting versus cutting and pasting. When we cut and paste, for example, if I do a cut and paste on the title, as soon as I hit cut, it disappears. It goes away. I've cut it out of that part of the document. And then if I click somewhere else and paste it, I've essentially moved it from one location to another. So cutting and pasting is like moving. Okay, I just undid all of that. I use the undo button to take me back to the way it was. Now, conversely, if I do a copy and paste, right click and copy, notice that the original is still there. It didn't take it away. It didn't delete it. Now, if I paste it somewhere else, I now have two copies of that line of text. So copy and paste makes a duplicate. Cut and paste moves. A shortcut to cut and paste is drag and drop. If you've never done a drag and drop before, it's kind of fun and easy. Start by selecting the text that you wish to move to another location. I'm going to use my fancy one-click left margin method to do that. Put the cursor directly over the selected text and then just drag it to where you want it to be in the document. Okay, and I just dragged it down a few lines and it's now down below. If I want to move it back, I can click, drag it back up to where it was originally, and now I'm back to my starting point. Okay, so that's a drag and drop, which is a shortcut to a cut and paste. Next, we have a search and replace, or a find and replace. So a find and replace is a command that's used to replace one text string, or it could be a word, with another. Now, in this case, let's say I want to take the word disease, and I don't really like the word disease. I'd rather use the word condition. But I've already got the word disease appearing throughout the document. So what a find and replace allows me to do is to find the word disease and automatically replace it with the word condition. We do this using the Home tab on the ribbon bar. On the far right end of the ribbon bar, you'll see we have the Replace button. You can click the Replace button, find what, and I already have the word disease filled in there, replace with condition. So what this is going to do is replace the letters D-I-S-E-A-S-E with the letters C-O-N-D-I-T-I-O-N. Doesn't matter whether those letters are part of a larger word or not. So for example, if you notice in the third paragraph here, we have the term heart diseases, plural. Well, heart diseases should become heart conditions, because only the disease part of the word will be replaced and the S will stay in place just the way it is. Now when I click the Replace button, it'll take me to the first occurrence of the word, and it's just going to sit there until I decide what to do. I can either find next, meaning skip over that and go to the next occurrence, or go ahead and replace it. If I click the Replace button, it just changed heart disease to heart condition. Okay, it goes to the next occurrence. I don't think I want to replace that one because that's part of a title. So I'm going to click Find Next. That will take me to my next occurrence, which is heart diseases. Now in this case, I'll hit Replace, and heart diseases has now become heart conditions. And we can continue the same way through the document. So this allows me to automatically make those replacements. Now there's another option, which is replace all. The replace all button will go through and automatically replace all of them without asking me case by case. So when I click replace, it's going to go to each occurrence one at a time and ask me. Replace all, it's not going to ask me, it's just going to do the replacements. I usually recommend against using that, the reason being that it may replace things that you don't want replaced. The only way you'll know that is if you go through them one at a time and actually confirm them yourself. So generally the replace button is a better way to go rather than replace all. Now there's a more button there. If you click the more button, you'll see the screen that I had there inadvertently earlier, which gives me some additional options. And these are kind of worth playing with, I think, just to see what they do. Match case, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through a couple of the key ones. Match case essentially says that the capitalization has to be exactly the same way that you specified on the find box there. So if you have it capitalized, it's only going to look for it to be capitalized, and so forth. Find whole words only. There it will exclude things like changing diseases to conditions. It will only look for the whole word disease, not part of a word. So those are the two that are probably most commonly used. So that's our find and replace tool. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. This is particularly helpful where you have a very consistent thing that you have to change throughout the document. Incidentally, I'll point out one other thing while we're here. There's an option for format, and this is actually one that is worth playing around with if you ever need it. This will allow you to replace a word with a different format. So for example, maybe the word diseases should always be italicized. Well, under the format option, you can specify how you want it formatted. So I can look for the word disease however it appears, and then replace it with the word disease using the format that's specified here, which might be italicized or bolded or in some other way. This also works well if you have to put words in parentheses or do something along those lines, but consistently throughout the document. Okay, that concludes our look at the Find and Replace tool. The next feature in Microsoft Word that we will be looking at is the spelling and grammar checker. Before we dive into it, what I'd like to do is to step through how it can be configured. There's actually quite a bit of customization that can be done to both the spelling checker and the grammar checker. To do this, we go to the File tab on the ribbon bar. And under the File tab, we go to the Options menu option. Under the Options screen, we'll be going down to the Proofing option. And this is essentially where all of the controls are contained that effectively control how the grammar and spelling checker work. So the top section here is are the options for the spell checker, and most of these are fairly straightforward. I tend to find that the default values usually work pretty well, so I just usually keep the things checked that are checked and don't check the things that aren't. Ignore words in uppercase. That tells the spell checker to ignore any word that is all uppercase. So for example, CSUN in all uppercase letters would be ignored, recognizing that it's an acronym and not a word that's misspelled. Ignore words that contain numbers. Ignore internet and file addresses. That will ignore things that start with HTTP : or have an @ sign in them, such as an email address. Flag repeated words, so if you inadvertently duplicate a word, it will flag that as a spelling error. If we drop down to the next section down, when correcting spelling and grammar in Word, check spelling as you type. So this checkbox controls it actually checking the grammar or checking the spelling as you're typing. So if you've ever been typing along and had it suddenly find an error and or change the error, that's where you can prevent it from doing that if you choose to do so, just by unchecking that. Same thing with the grammatical errors. Frequently confused words. So if it finds words that there, T-H-E-Y-R-E versus T-H-E-I-R, it will look for those if that box is checked. I usually find it really helps to have that checked since it will flag those, and everybody tends to make those mistakes at one point or another. Check grammar with spelling. If you don't want it to do a grammar check and you only want it to do a spell check, you would uncheck this or leave it checked if you want both. I recommend checking the box that says Show Readability Statistics. And what this will do, after the spell checking is completed, it'll give you a little display window that will give you some key statistics about your document, how many words, how many letters, how many sentences, and then it'll calculate the estimated grade level that it's written for. Now, to control the grammar checker, we can use this writing style option here, and this essentially gives you two options. We can tell it to only check for grammatical errors or to check for grammatical and style errors, which is the grammar and more option. Under the settings button alongside that, we can specify specifically what rules it will use when it does that grammar and or grammar and style check. And again, these are fairly self-explanatory. As you go through, you can see exactly all the things that can be checked or not checked. So again, pick and choose which ones are important to you, or specifically which ones might not be important to you. I find that sometimes with scientific writing, it's necessary to use passive voice sentences. So leaving this one unchecked tends to make it a little bit easier. If you're doing other types of writing, sometimes it's helpful to have that checked. So again, you can decide which one of these rules you would like to have used when it does the grammar check. Press OK. And to launch the grammar checker now and the spell checker, we can just hit Recheck Document. And we'll just pretend I didn't say that and jump over here to the Review tab on the ribbon bar. And we can launch the spelling and grammar checker directly from the Review tab. If you placed it on your Quick Access toolbar, as I did up here, you can launch it from there as well. So it gives you another way you can get to it. Now, this particular document has a number of errors planted in it. They're not unintentional. They're actually intentional, just to practice using the spelling and grammar checker. And for each error that comes up, you can have it ignore the error. If you come across a word that is a valid word, it's correctly spelled but just not in the dictionary. So for example, your name. You can use the Add button, and what that will do is add the word to the dictionary so that the next time you create a document with that word in it or that name in it, it won't flag it as a spelling error. If it's a legitimate error that needs to be corrected, for example, this word published here, which is missing the E, we can use the Change button, assuming that it's guessed correctly up here. And again, with each one of these, we can pick and choose which one of these corrections we want to apply and go through the remainder of the document and make your changes. And you'll find that most of the time it tends to guess right in terms of what changes need to be made. Okay, Veronique here is a really good example of one that is not really a spelling error, it's just a name that does not happen to be in Microsoft's dictionary. So for this one, I'll click the Add button. That will add it to the dictionary, and the next time it will not come up as an error. Something you probably would like to do with your own name if your name tends to come up as a spelling error. Here's a repeated word, the followed by the. So because we have that box checked to check for duplicated words, it flagged that as an error. I'll click the delete button to repair that one. And here is a grammar error. It suggests that there should be a comma after the word unfortunately. So I'll go ahead and click change on that one, and there we have it. Now that the grammar and spell checker is complete, we've got the readability statistics screen that appeared. This has appeared now because we have that box checked that said show readability statistics. And most of this, again, is fairly self-explanatory. When we get down to the readability section, there's a Flesch Reading Ease score, and this score is essentially kind of an estimate of how easy it is to read. And then the grade level, the Flesch-Kincaid grade level. And this is saying that this is written for 15th grade level. Essentially, it's written for a maybe second, third year to a third year college student. But this is actually a pretty good score to use to help adjust your writing style to the education level of the target audience. So if you're writing someone with maybe a low literacy group, you'd want to reduce that. And the way you would do that would be by using shorter sentences, smaller words, fewer syllables in the words. Click OK. And now we have a spell-checked document, and we're ready to go on to our next task. The next thing we're going to take a look at in Microsoft Word has to do with the organization of the document. Microsoft Word has got some really nice capabilities built into it that you can tap into if Word understands how your document is organized. If you think that about most documents, there's generally kind of a hierarchy to how they're constructed. And this little slide here will kind of give you a little bit of a visualization of that. So typically, probably the best way to think about it is the kind of the standard outlining method, where we have Roman numerals, then we got numbers within Roman numerals, and we have letters and then numbers. And this is a way that we can think about visualizing the hierarchy. So we start off with major topics, which are usually indicated with Roman numerals. So major topic 1 would be Roman numeral 1, major topic 2 would be Roman numeral 2, and then within each major topic we have indented subtopics. Within the subtopics we have indented what I will refer to as subtopics. Now Microsoft Word gives us the ability to indicate what these levels are and assign those levels to the text throughout the document. And the way we do that are through something called styles. So Microsoft gives us styles that we can assign to text. One type of style is called a heading style. And heading styles are essentially heading levels, which equate to this standard outline method. So the heading levels range from 1 to 6. A heading level 1 is the highest level heading that we would assign to a major topic. So consequently, a major topic with a Roman numeral assigned to it would be the same as a heading level 1. Okay, down here we have major topic 2, and that would be assigned to a heading level 1. The subtopics are heading level 2s. Subtopics are heading level 3s. And we've got this process that just works throughout the remainder of the document. We can go up to 6 heading levels in Microsoft Word. In addition to the heading levels, there are also a variety of other types of styles that we can tap into. So I'm going to switch back over to Microsoft Word for this. Our first job here is going to be to assign the appropriate styles to the text in the document. And this actually will go pretty quickly. It's really kind of a nice practice to get into to actually assign them as you go along. So as you're creating the document, as you're writing the document, assign the styles. It forces you to think a little bit about the hierarchy and the organization of the document and to organize your thoughts a little bit. And as a side benefit, once those styles are assigned, we can do some very, very cool stuff with our document. So we'll start off with the title and the subtitle. Now Microsoft actually has styles called title and subtitle. If we switch over to the Home tab, you'll see that the styles group here contains all of our style commands. If I open that up by clicking that little arrow down here, you'll see all the various styles that are available to us. And you'll see there's one called title. So let's start off here by assigning the title to the title style. I'm going to select the title. I can use my fancy one-click method to do that. Go up to the style selector and click on title. Now notice that as soon as I do that, the font will change. All of a sudden it gets bigger and the style of the font changes, everything about it looks different. If you absolutely hate that, don't worry about it. Just leave it for now. Just kind of accept that that's what it is. We can change this after the fact. So whatever you do, don't change the look of the styles as you go along. I'll show you a much more efficient way to do it afterward. So we'll assign the title style. Next, we'll assign the subtitle style. Now, depending on the style set that you have selected or that is defaulted in your Word, your styles may look different than mine. Again, it's okay. The appearance actually is meaningless at this point. What's important is that we assign the styles. Now we're up to the overview subheading. The overview subheading, I would argue, is a heading level 1, which would be like a Roman numeral. So we're going to go up to the style selection tool here and select heading 1. The text that appears in the paragraphs following that subheading is body text. The style that we assign to that is the normal style. If you look up in the style selection tool, you'll see that normal is actually already selected. But if you click it again, it will go ahead and assign it the formatting that's associated with the normal style. So to be consistent, let's assign it to the normal style. We'll scroll down some more, select the trends in heart disease, and for our purposes, let's assume that this is a heading level 2, meaning that it belongs indented under overview. So we'll select heading level 2, and we can use our fancy double-click method in the margin to select the paragraph. We'll assign that the normal style. Tracking risk factors. Select tracking risk factors. Let's make that a heading level 1. The text that falls under it, this will all be normal. So let's select all those 3 paragraphs of text, assign them the normal style. Incidentally, the only reason there's a difference in the formatting is because we copied and pasted this. So even though it recognizes it as normal style, because it was formatted differently in the web page, it looked different, which is why we're having to apply this. Next, we've got future goals. Let's assume that's a heading level 1. Select the text below it, the 2 paragraphs. Let's assign those normal. And family history, let's make that a heading level 1. And one last time, let's select the text underneath it and assign that to the normal style. Okay, we now have all of our text assigned to a style level, right? A style or heading level. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that you can change the format after the fact. And it's actually quite easy to do that. Let's say that, notice that our heading level 1s and 2s are blue font. Let's assume we really don't want it in a blue font. Maybe we want it in a black font. Well, to change heading level 1, all I have to do is go up here to the style selection, right-click on heading level 1, select Modify, and here I have all of my normal font formatting tools. I can change the color from blue to black, which is automatic. Click OK. And notice Overview now shows up in black. If I scroll through the remainder of the document, all the heading level 1s are now black. So that one change trickled through the entire document and changed it throughout. Future Goals is now black, Family History is now black. So that formatting was applied to anything that had been assigned to heading level 1. Let's do the same thing with heading level 2. I'm going to right-click heading level 2, go to Modify. I'm going to change that from blue to black once again. Press OK, and Trends in Heart Disease is now black. Okay, so this is how we can make changes after the fact to the styles. And we can do this with any of the styles. We can do this with the title, the subtitle, any of them at all. Let's make the subtitle a little bit larger font. So where it says American Heart Association, it's a bit small. Instead of changing it directly, we're going to go up to the title font, right-click it, Modify. And here we can change the font. We'll take it from 28. I should have done that to the subtitle, not to the title. I'm going to try that one more time. This time I'm going to right-click on the subtitle. Change that from 11 point to 14 point. Click OK, and the subtitle is now a larger font. Now, there's two reasons that we want to do this in the style management tools as opposed to the font, to the text itself. First of all, if you have a recurring style like the heading levels, this prevents you from having to do it to every single text throughout the entire document. It will do it automatically to the entire document all at once. Secondly, once you have these styles formatted the way you like them, you can save that as what is called a style set and then reuse it in the future. And the way we do this is by clicking on the Design tab. Once you've clicked on the Design tab, we're going to click this little drop-down arrow down here to open up the options. And you'll see there's an option there to save as a new style set. We'll click that down. And I have to give it a name, my custom style. Don't try to save it anywhere, just enter it, give it a name, click Save. And now, when I click down this option, there it is. You'll see that there is this custom option, and when I hover over it, it shows that the name is my custom style. I can select that on a future document. So if I want to create a future document and use exactly this type of formatting, this is how I can do it. Now notice we have all these built-in styles. If you hover over them, you will see, sometimes it's easier to do this up here, you'll see that each one of these has its own look. And if you'd like to select one, just click on it, and now that easily can give the document a totally different look and feel just with a single mouse click, and it applies to the entire document. So this is really one of the benefits of using this style selection. Again, one click and we can very easily change the complete appearance of the document. Now, there's another major advantage to assigning these styles and heading levels, and that is that we can use them to create an automatic table of contents. Now, the table of contents in Word, the capability is really kind of nice. It's very quick, it's very easy, and literally with a mouse click we can create an automatic table of contents which gets updated automatically, which means if you make changes to the document, you don't have to keep track of where the page numbers are. It will do that for you, and it will rebuild the table of contents for you. To demonstrate this, we're going to take this document and we're going to add a little bit to it. So the first thing we're going to do is to insert a page break. We're going to break this up into a multiple page document to make it a little bit bigger. What I recommend doing is going up to the subtitle, American Heart Association Year-End Report, click at the end so that the flashing cursor is appearing there. And now the quick way to insert a page break is by hitting the Control key, and with the Control key down, hit the Enter key. That will automatically insert a page break in your document. Now, as a result, you should have the title on one page, so we have a title page there, and then the remaining document starts on page 2. We're going to need a place to put the table of contents. So one more time, hit Control Enter together. And now the overview part is going to be on page 3. Above it will be a blank page, and above that will be the title page. So you should now have about a 4-page document. The title page, followed by a blank page, followed by overview, and then the remainder of the document. Okay. Once you've created, you've inserted your page breaks, okay, we now have a little bit bigger document to work with. We're going to just click right on the very top of page 2, that blank page, and this is where our table of contents will go. To insert the table of contents, select the References tab on your ribbon bar. The very first command on the References ribbon bar is the Table of Contents option. And here it's just a matter of picking one that you like. I'm going to pick the second one, Table of Contents. Click, and there is my Table of Contents. So I didn't have to look up any of the page numbers. I didn't have to type a whole bunch of dots on the screen. All I had to do was just really one mouse click to select it. Now, if I were to go and make changes to this document and delete pages maybe, or sections, or move things around from one page to another, and the page numbers are then no longer correct, updating it is quite quick. All I have to do is click directly in the table of contents, and you'll see there's a button that says Update Table. Click that, and I have two options. I can either just tell it to update the page numbers or update the entire table. Now, I always pick Update Entire Table. If you have a really huge document, and by huge I mean maybe 50 to 100 or more pages, it may take a couple of seconds or a few seconds for it to update the entire table. For a tiny document such as this one, it's pretty much instantaneous, so there's really no reason not to do an update entire table. That way, if you've added new pages, it will incorporate those. Okay, so that is the table of contents. It's pretty quick and easy, and it's a very, very fast way to get your table of contents in there, and a real easy way to manage it going forward, so since you don't have to deal with having to update it manually. Now, while we're here, there's another additional value to adding those heading levels, and that is the fact that you can use it to help navigate your document. One way you can do that is through the table of contents. If I want to go directly to family history on page 4, I can hold down my Control key. Notice that my cursor now changes into a little pointing finger, and I can just point and click right on page 4, and it will take me there directly. So we can use the table of contents to navigate the document. We can also add the navigation pane to Microsoft Word. We do that under the View option, the View tab. And once you click View, you'll see there's a checkbox that says Navigation Pane. Go ahead and click Navigation Pane. And now on the left side of the screen, you'll see all of your heading levels that have been assigned. So if you want to go to Future Goals, just click on Future Goals. Trends in Heart Disease, click on Trends in Heart Disease. So this is not quite as impressive on a 4-page document, but it is a lot more impressive if you got a 20 or 30-page documents, because it means you don't have to scroll up and down to look for the section that you're trying to find. You can just go to this navigation pane and just click on it. But again, it requires that you assign those heading levels in order to do that. That's kind of the first key there. So once you get the heading levels in, all of this becomes available to you. So we've added the heading levels, we've assigned the styles, we've looked at the style manager and style sets, and we've created a table of contents using those styles. So these are again some of the things that we can do with Word once those styles have been assigned to the document. Now the next thing we're going to do will be to work with referencing. Microsoft Word has got a great ability to manage citations and references and to format your document using APA or any other style that you're interested in. Now, while we're still talking about the style sets here, one thing that you can do, and that I might recommend doing if you're doing a lot of academic writing, is you can create a style set where you assign these heading levels the formats that would be required under APA or MLA. So for example, upper lowercase centered for a heading level 1, upper lowercase left justified for a heading level 2. So you can assign those formats yourself, save that style set and call it APA, and then in the future if you have to create an APA formatted document, you'll have it ready to go. You just pull up that style set, and as long as you have assigned the heading levels throughout your document, you're good to go, and literally with a few mouse clicks it's going to look exactly the way it should. So next we'll take a look at referencing and citations, and we can see how Microsoft Word can manage that for us, where we don't really even have to deal with it that much. It will do all the heavy lifting and make sure it looks really, really good. So the next thing we're going to do with our document will be to insert some citations. Now the assumption here is that we're going to be using the APA referencing style. So we'll format this for APA. Now Microsoft Word has the ability to handle a variety of different reference styles. If we go to the References tab on the ribbon bar and then select the Style option, clicking that down, you'll see that there's a number of different styles that you have available that you can choose from, including APA, Chicago, MLA, and a number of other commonly used ones. For ours, we'll pick APA 6th edition. If that's not already selected, go ahead and select that. Now, to do the styles to do the references in Microsoft, it's a two-step process. The first step will be to essentially enter the information about our references. So Microsoft Word actually maintains a database. It has a little database that you can create where you enter information about the various articles, books, and publications that you wish to cite. That database is available to you in any document, which means that after you've created this document and saved it and moved on to something else, you can actually take those same citations and cite them in a different paper. So we want to build our little database here to begin with. To do this, we're going to go to the Manage Sources button under the Citations and Bibliography group. Click Manage Citations. And now we will go to New. Now there shouldn't be anything in there if you've never created one before, but we'll click the New button. And we'll start by telling it what type of source we want to cite. For our purposes, let's assume we're going to cite a journal article. So we will go ahead and select Journal Article. And now we have the author option. And a normal way to do this is last name first. So Smith, Robert. Now, if we have more than one author, we separate them with semicolons. So I'm going to add a semicolon here, and let's do Jones, Joseph. Okay, so we have Smith, Robert, semicolon, Jones, Joseph. The corporate author checkbox is to be used if the author is not an individual person but is an organization. So for example, if the author was the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we would check corporate author and then it would go down here. So in this case, these are two individuals, so we don't use corporate author. But in the event that it's an organization or a company name, then we would use corporate author. Next comes the title of the article. Important research regarding heart disease. Journal name, Journal of Heart Disease. Now notice that there's a checkbox here. It says Show All Bibliography Fields. I recommend checking that because then that will actually open it up and give you access to additional fields. The ones with the asterisks alongside are the ones that are not optional. You do have to enter those to have a valid citation at the very least. So for the city, we'll do Northridge, California. Year 2015. Month, let's do June 18th. Pages will be the range of pages where the article was found. And let's go ahead and do a volume number. We'll say volume 10, issue 5, or issue 3. So this gives us the information. And again, all of these can be filled out. We're just doing this as a quick example. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK. So now we've added our first reference. And you can see that down below here, it's showing you how it'll be cited in text when you use the APA style. You use parentheses surrounding it, Smith and Jones, 2015. Normally you do not use first names, you use first initials, and Word went ahead and replaced the names with the initials along with the other information that was necessary. So it went ahead and created the citation for us. Now let's go ahead and click New, and we'll add another citation. Now for this one, let's go ahead and enter a corporate author. So we'll do U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We'll check the corporate author box because this is an organization and not a person. And the title will be Even More Research Regarding Heart Disease. Journal, let's do the journal, let's do Public Health Reports. Year 2015 and pages, let's do 15 through 20. Okay, so we'll keep this one very short. Once we have it entered, click OK. And now we can preview what the citation will look like and the bibliography entry. Once you have those entered, go ahead and click Close. And now it's time to actually insert these into the text. Okay, we don't really need this researcher box at this point, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to scroll down to the third page here, which is our first page of text. This second paragraph that ends with the words death rate fell 44.8%. We need to cite that because we got some statistics in there. So we'll use this as one of our citations. Now, when you're using APA citations, you always cite before the period. So you want it within the sentence. So I'm going to just click before the period and hit a space. So I've got an extra space in there. Once we've selected the insertion point for the citation, we're going to go up to the Insert Citation button on the ribbon bar under the References tab. And you'll see the two citations that we just created, the two references that we just created. There's Smith, Robert, and Joseph Jones, and there's the one from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And it's just a matter of clicking on it, and there you go. There is your APA citation. Now we'll go down to this next paragraph here under Trends in Heart Disease. Do the same thing with this paragraph. I'm going to click just to the left of the period, hit enter, or hit the space bar so I get an extra blank space there in front of it. Back up to Insert Citation, and for this one I'll insert the Smith citation, and there it is, Smith and Jones 2015. Now, presumably you'll have more than just two references and two insertions of the citations. Once you have them all inserted, it's time to create the references page at the end of the document that lists all of the references. So to do this, we're going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to go down to this very last page here where we have family history. Now we're going to insert a page break so that we get a blank page after this. And if you remember how we did this before, I just hold down the Control key. With the Control key held down, hit the Enter key. Okay, you now have a blank page. And to create the bibliography, we're going to go to, again, the Citations and Bibliography section, click down Bibliography, and pick the style you want. I'm going to select the second one, called References. And there it is. There is our APA formatted references page. Note that they're in alphabetical order. It's hard to tell when you only have two, I know. It's a 50-50 chance that they're not. But they will be in alphabetical order. The initials are always properly done, and this will be in proper APA format. Now, here's a nice thing that's kind of cool about this. If I go up to the table of contents, click on the table of contents and click Update Table, Update Entire Table, and press OK, note that the references page was just added to the table of contents. So now we have a correct table of contents that takes advantage of the references page. So this is the easy way to do references in Microsoft Word. Now again, as a reminder, if you go to another document and create another document, these citations will also be available to you. So they get added to a database that then becomes available to you in future documents. So kind of a nice way to do it. Now, in addition to what is built into Microsoft Word, there are some other third-party tools that do much the same thing and actually do them much better than how Word does it. One of those is a product called EndNote, and if you look over here, you'll see that I have a button with a Use EN, stands for EndNote, and it's called Cite While You Write, and it's essentially a very similar type of approach, but this uses a database that's maintained on a cloud server and will connect directly to library databases like the CSUN library. So you can actually search the CSUN library, find an article you like, have it transferred to your EndNote library literally with a mouse click, and then that becomes available to you to insert into your document. EndNote is done on a subscription basis. You pay to use it annually. However, if you're a CSUN student, you actually get a free subscription to EndNote Online, and that can be gotten through the Oviatt Library. Just check the Oviatt Library website. Another tool that's available is called Mendeley. Mendeley, you'll see I've got some tools here that are under a group called Mendeley Cite-O-Matic, and Mendeley is very, very similar to EndNote. Major difference with Mendeley is that it is free. They don't charge for it, but it has, again, very similar types of capabilities. And with Mendeley activated, you can add the add-on into Microsoft Word. Same thing, you can have documents, or you can have articles that you find online. You can import them into your Mendeley database and then insert them directly into your EndNote document, just like you can with EndNote. So, I'm sorry, your Word document, just like you can with EndNote. So these are really wonderful tools. I always, always, always recommend them to students that are either planning to go to graduate school or starting with graduate school, and sometimes ask me what advice I have. And this is the one piece of advice that I consistently get, is to use one of these tools. They're called bibliographic management programs, and they are totally invaluable. They are such a helpful tool to use because they save you tons of time and it looks good. And very often, formatting APA references is one of the things that just takes an enormous amount of time if you do it by hand, and doesn't really, it's not one of those things you necessarily learn a whole lot from. It's kind of busy work, so if you can make the software do the busy work for you and save that time to focus on your writing and research, that's always a real positive thing. So that's my recommendation. So again, those are our tools, and this is how we add references into Microsoft Word. Once you have this document completed, you can go ahead and save it if you'd like to go back and recreate it, or pick it apart and see how you did it later, but this should work well for some of those basic tasks that we just addressed. Hope you found this useful, and I hope this helped your overall use of Microsoft Word, and that you get some good tips out of this that you can use in your documents into the future.